Welcome to How to Manage Your Money at University, the free course. Not the catchiest name I know, but that's the best I could do. In this video, you're going to learn everything you need to do before and during uni to put yourself in the best position financially by the time you graduate. This video is going to be quite extensive, so I'll put a little contents page here, as well as the chapters, so you can skip to any parts that are most relevant to you. We're going to go through in chronological order and create a little timeline for you in the build up to university. And we are going to start with your student loan applications. But before we start,
this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. So if you do need financial advice, then seek a qualified financial advisor.
so we're starting out 4 months away from when you start university. And that is because this is when you will need to have applied for your student loans. Obviously, these deadlines will change depending on where you're from, if you're getting in through clearing or late entry or anything like that. So make sure you find the deadline that is for your personal situation. Now I know when this video actually comes out, it's not in June or around then, but we're gonna pretend it is so this video can be useful for people next year and the year after. So at this point, your #1 priority should be applying for your student loans and getting that sorted. Make sure you apply on time. This might be the single biggest thing you can do to prepare successfully for uni, as if you don't do it, you may not even be able to go. So just trust me, do it on time. Now, I will quickly go over your maintenance loans and how much you can expect to receive depending on your household income and which country you're from within the UK. If you want a much more detailed version about your maintenance loans and tuition loans, as well as your repayment plans, then check out this video here. But the basics are, the higher your household income, the smaller your loan amount will be. The lower your household income, the higher your loan will be able to be, and you may be entitled to some grants as well. So let's get started. If you're Scottish, you're entitled to a maximum of £4,750, providing your household income is above £34,000. If it is lower than £34,000, your loan will increase according to this table I will show here. If you are from Northern Ireland, you will receive a max of £4,840 if you go to university outside of London, or £6,780 if you are attending university within London. And this applies if your household income is above £41,000. Again, if your household income is lower, you'll receive a larger loan, as you can see in the table here. If you're from Wales, things work slightly different. So everybody is entitled to £10,350, but the allocation of this grant versus loan changes depending on your household income. So have a look at this table here, see what your household income is, and then see how much loan you will receive compared to the amount you will receive as a grant. If you're from England, you will be entitled to £4,422 if your household income is above 70k, and that loan amount will increase as your household income decreases, as per all the others. So great, you should now know how much you're entitled to in your maintenance loan. But this amount might be surprisingly low if your household income is above the max threshold. So unless you're from Wales, you will not be able to fund your accommodation and food and expenses with just the student loan. You will need additional financing, whether that be from you working or from family support. My rough estimate would be that you would need between £6,000 and £8,000 to cover your accommodation and living expenses. However, this would obviously change depending on the location of your university, the type of accommodation you go for, as well as your lifestyle. Therefore, you will need to make up the difference by either relying on some supplementary income, which can be via your parents or family, or via part-time work, or working during the summer to save up for the year ahead. More on that later. Now let's talk accommodation. If you are a first-year student, the best option is probably just to go for university halls. This will mean you won't have to deal with dodgy landlords, the public, and it'll mean you'll be given extra privileges like security, campus security, and sometimes you'll even get cleaners to come in, clean your room or your bathroom or your kitchen or something like that. Now, in terms of picking accommodation, it goes without saying, only go for what you can afford. And in my personal opinion, you don't need to live like royalty while you're at uni, even if you do have money. If you haven't lived in a room the size of a shoebox, then you haven't had the full uni experience. Some universities will offer catered accommodation, and I'm sure you smart cookies have figured out that that means you get your food provided. Although this initially sounds great, I would avoid this for a couple of reasons. Firstly, they will be more expensive. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. If you worked it out, then by shopping smart and doing your own cooking, you could probably save a little bit each year. I'll talk more about how to shop smart a little later on. However, when you then take into account that a lot of catered accommodation doesn't provide food at the weekends, and they don't give you a great kitchen, or maybe they don't even give you a kitchen, then that means you'll be more likely to either order takeaways or eat out. So not only are you paying a premium to have your food made for you during the week, but then you're going to have to spend more on takeaways or eating out at the weekend since your food is not provided. And finally, cooking for yourself is a life skill. I know everyone wants to avoid it for as long as possible, but eventually you will have to do it, so why not learn to do it now? But that being said, pick the accommodation that best fits your needs and your budget. Different unis will have different methods of sorting out university accommodation. It can be preference style, where you will pick a top 3, for example, and then they will try and give you your number 1 pick, but as they run out of spaces, they'll just move down your list. Or it can be a first come, first served basis like mine was. They'll usually give you a date and say that the accommodation portal will open at this time on this date, and it's just a mad rush to book the accommodation that you want. So try and stay up to date with your university and make sure you don't miss any emails telling you about this, as you could end up missing out on the accommodation that you really wanted. When it comes to paying for accommodation, things work slightly differently to a traditional rent. Most student accommodation, even if it's not from the university directly, will allow you to pay in 3 installments throughout the year rather than monthly. These installments will coincide with when your student loan gets paid. The first one, if you're in England, will be around October time, at the start of October. If you're in Scotland, it might be slightly earlier in September. And then your next 2 payments will be in around January time, let's say, and then April time again. This is just something to be aware of. So in summary, don't go all out even if you have the money. Go for a middle of the pack accommodation, ideally with the university, to give you that extra bit of security and take one thing off your list to stress about. Avoid catered halls, or at least do the maths and figure out how much cheaper or expensive it will be to go catered. One final piece of advice for you when it comes to accommodation. You will probably hate at least one of your flatmates, that's being conservative, and it doesn't matter how much you pay for your accommodation, it's gonna happen anyway. So you may as well just go with the cheap one. Not long until university starts now, so you need to get a couple of things in order. The first thing we're going to look at is a student bank account. So firstly, what actually is a student bank account? What makes it different from a regular current account or savings account? The only real difference is that you get something called an overdraft. An overdraft allows you to spend more money than you actually have. So technically it's a form of credit, you're borrowing money. However, the benefit of this for students is that these overdrafts tend to be interest-free. So say you had an overdraft of £500. This would mean you could spend £500 more than you actually have and pay no interest on that until your course ends. Although this does sound a little scary, it can actually be quite useful if used responsibly. Let's say you haven't quite managed your money right and it's getting towards the end of term and you're running out of money. You can use the overdraft to keep you afloat until your next student loan installment hits. Or if you needed a laptop or iPad or something like that for university and you didn't have the money, you could use your overdraft to buy it and then pay it off if you worked during the summer or something like that. However, the real issues start when you start using the overdraft irresponsibly. Spending more than you can afford on going out during Freshers Week and other uni-related activities is not a great move. You will have to pay this back, and if you haven't managed to pay it back by the time you finish university, you will start to pay interest on it. So yeah, don't do that. Not a smart money move. Return of investment on that one, not great. There is one other thing that differs about student bank accounts. They often have quite nice incentives to sign up. So 2 current ones are HSBC and Santander. HSBC are offering £80 cash and free ASOS Premier delivery for a year or a £20 Uber Eats voucher. All you need to do to qualify for this is sign up, get approved, and then make 5 card transactions. Pretty nice. Santander, on the other hand, they offer a 4-year free rail card. That's probably worth about £120, I think, as it's around 30 quid a year for a rail card. And they're very useful, would recommend. Other banks will offer other incentives for student bank accounts, but I think these are probably 2 of the best offers. However, if you find a good one, let me know in the comments below. One thing to remember though, these are credit products. You are able to borrow money. So firstly, you have to be over 18 to get them, and you will be credit checked. So if you have used a credit card irresponsibly in the past, you probably won't get approved. And it doesn't mean that just because you haven't had a credit card that you will get approved. We will talk a little bit more about how to increase your chances of getting approved later on. Personally, if I were to recommend a student bank account, I would probably just go with one of these 2 here. Both have pretty nice incentives. On top of that, HSBC offer up to £1,000 overdraft for your first year, which can increase to up to £3,000 by your final year. Santander just offer £1,500 over the course of your 3 years. Both are interest free as well. so that's great. However, if you're in a situation where you don't think you're going to be using your overdraft, you're not going to get that low on money, then you may not even go for a student bank account. But something I would recommend is a card like Monzo. The reason I would recommend this is it makes it very easy to track your spending, something we'll talk about later, but it makes it very simple and has a nice display that you can look at all your spending and where you're spending it. So if you don't need an overdraft, then that's what I'd go for. Great, we've got you a debit card, now let's get you a credit card. I know, scary credit cards, but the earlier you get started with a credit card, the better they are going to be in the future. In fact, doing this is probably one of the best things that you could do while at uni to prepare yourself financially for the future. If you can build up a decent credit score while at uni, then any loans or mortgages you might have to take out in the future will make it easier for you to be approved for them. Now, a preface to credit cards. If you're going to get a credit card, you must use it responsibly. You can't spend more than you can afford. You always need to pay your credit card bill back in full and on time every month. You should set up a direct debit so it takes the money straight out of your student bank account that you've just set up, and you don't even need to think about it. Other than credit score, credit cards have a lot of other different benefits, which I talk more about in this video here. Now, what credit card should you go for? Well, the two most beginner credit cards that I personally have are the first one, Capital One Credit Builder card, and then secondly, the Tesco Foundation card. Now, if you could pick between them, I would probably go for the Tesco Foundation card, as this rewards you with club card points even if you're not spending in Tesco. And if you live beside a Tesco at uni, then definitely get this one. I'm not going to go into too much detail about these cards here. I have a longer, more detailed breakdown of them in this video here. If eligibility checkers say that you won't get approved for a credit card, then check out this video here, which will show you how to improve your credit score and get approved. Now we're going to talk about stuff you might need to buy for your studies. So textbooks. I don't think this is as common as it once was. For me personally, I wasn't asked to buy any textbooks for any of my modules. However, I'm aware this will vary between unis and between courses as well, so you may have to buy some. If you do have to buy a textbook, then your first port of call should actually be not to buy it at all, but to look on the university library or look for online versions. Universities often have subscriptions to online journals and online publishing companies, so you may be able to find it online for free. If not, you can always go to the in-person library. However, these textbooks will go quick, so get in there early. Now, if you couldn't manage to find a copy online or at the university, then your next option should be to look for pre-owned textbooks. So have a look on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups around your uni, people might be selling them. Another little tip for this is don't forget to check out older versions. If they're asking you to buy the 15th edition, there probably isn't a lot of difference in the information between the 12th version and the 15th version, so you could definitely get by on that. Now, the final option, if you're unable to find it anywhere pre-owned, is try and ask some of your course mates once you get there, so a little bit later on this timeline, ask some of your course mates if they would be willing to split it and just buy one textbook from the online publisher and then share the textbook. But however you acquire the textbook, remember after you're done with it, try and sell it on, make some of that money back. Next, laptops. Now, I feel like this could be a whole other video in itself, but I'm gonna keep it short here. Do you need a laptop for every university course? No, you don't. If you're just using it for light note taking, doing a bit of research, writing some essays, then any old cheap laptop would probably do. Or even better, in my opinion, is an iPad with an Apple Pencil and a Bluetooth keyboard. I like to write my notes handwritten, and doing it on an iPad just means that it's easier to control where all your notes go, you don't lose bits of paper, and I quite enjoy doing it, to be honest. However, I'm aware some courses like engineering, computing, maths, you have to run programs on it, you might have to do rendering if you're doing design or something like that. So you may need a bit more of a powerful computer, and in that case, it may be worth buying a laptop that can cope with it, as it means you'll be able to do your work and assignments from home. However, always check your university and see if they have computers. I'm pretty sure most will. So if you don't have a laptop, I wouldn't worry too much, as there's definitely computers you can use, and I honestly prefer to use them as it makes me get out of my room and go somewhere else to work. And finally, if you have decided you do need a laptop or an iPad, then wait until you get your student email. You're entitled to a 10% student discount on Apple, I think, and HP, and some other tech stores as well, which you might want to buy your laptop from. And if you're buying an expensive one, this could actually save you quite a bit of money. So wait until you get your student email and you can get that student discount. Now, as mentioned earlier, some of the loans will require you to have supplementary income, and if this isn't going to be from your parents or family, then you will need to get it yourself, which may mean you have to get a part-time job while at university. Therefore, you will need to do some calculations and work out how much you'll have to work, or if you need to work at all. This is best done in conjunction with a budget. We're going to talk a little bit more about budgeting in a second. Do the maths, figure it out, and if you do need a job, then get on it early, maybe even earlier than 2 weeks before. If you are going to university in a small town or a city, there may be a large demand for jobs, as lots of students will be looking for part-time jobs. So if you can get in there early, start applying, get your job before everyone else, before the rush comes, and you'll put yourself in a much better position. If you're unable to find any part-time jobs in your local town or city, then perhaps look towards your university student union. They're quite often hiring for bartenders, bar staff, cleaners, security, and sometimes retail assistants as well. So it's worth keeping an eye out for that. With not long to go now, you're probably running frantically around IKEA, wondering which cutlery set is more you. You want the answer? It doesn't really matter which one you get because it's probably going to get nicked or you're going to lose it. I'm going to keep this section very short. People pretty much always get way too much stuff before moving to university for the first time. And that's normal, and there's not much I can say that's going to stop that. However, I do urge you not to get ridiculously expensive stuff, as people will just nick it, they'll use it without you asking, it'll get ruined, you'll forget to wash it for 3 weeks, and so do yourself a favor and just get the cheap stuff. You'll thank me later. Woo, you have made it to Freshers Week. Finally. You might think most of the financial decisions are behind you now, but you would be mistaken. It's only just beginning. Now, some people make Freshers Week out to be the greatest week of their lives. If you love going out and meeting random people and spending loads of money, then it might be. But if not, then it's just alright. Even if you're not going out spending loads of money, you might be joining societies or sports clubs which have high membership fees. So either way, you're gonna have to spend money in this period, whether you like it or not. Now, one of the main issues there can be is that Freshers Week can either start or the whole week can be before your student loan actually comes in. So there's a couple of things you can do here to prevent this from being an issue. First, and the probably best option, is to save up a little freshers fund. Ideally, this will be from working during the summer or perhaps the year before while you were still at school or college or wherever you were at. Now, if you weren't able to do that, you should at least by this point have a student bank account set up. So you have your overdraft that you can use if you need to, and you know that you're getting enough money back in your student loan to cover it. However, you will have to pay it back, so don't be a moron. Don't spend more than you can afford, okay? Got it? Good. Now, next, I want you to sit down and work out roughly how much you think you'll spend on however many nights out you think you're going to go on during Freshers Week. Once you've got that number, I want you to multiply it by 2, and that'll be the amount that you're looking to put in your Freshers Fund. This means that you won't be shocked by how much you spend when the excitement of uni and peer pressure kicks in. Now, if you're not planning to go out during Freshers Week, if drinking's not your style, fair enough. You've just saved yourself a couple £100. Treat yourself to a takeaway. I give you permission. Now, post Freshers Week, we have to start thinking long term, and I've got a couple of final things you need to do. Firstly, a budget. Oi, I just saw your eyes roll, and I know it's boring, but it's something you need to do. Hey Lucas, yo, you didn't even use a budget. Shut up. Well, yeah, I didn't actually use a budget, but I'll tell you why. I'm the type of cheapskate that is so cheap that it annoys everyone else. So I didn't really need a budget, as I was pretty certain that I was getting the lowest price and spending the least amount possible. But hey, maybe I should have used one and given myself some spending money. But for everyone not like that, a budget can be a very useful thing. Take 15-20 minutes, sit down, work it out, and you'll thank me. Even if you don't keep doing it regularly, you need to at least be aware of how much you're spending each week. You need to know roughly how much you're spending on your food and your regular reoccurring expenses to know if it's sustainable or not. You need to know if you're going to run out of money. If it's not sustainable, then you're going to need to set yourself some targets to bring it back into the category where it is sustainable. I know it is annoying and boring, but take the time to acknowledge it, and it means you might prevent things from spiraling out of control. Some quick changes you can make to reduce your spending are as follows. Firstly, start shopping at Aldi or Lidl instead of Tesco, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, etc. It may not sound like a big difference, but it really does add up over time. Next, make a meal plan. I know, again, sounds a bit boring, but by doing this, it means you know what you're eating on a given night, which means when you get home tired after lectures all day, then you're not going to be tempted to order a 15-20 quid takeaway, because you know what you're eating, you'll have bought your ingredients previously when you went food shopping, and over time this will add up hugely. Plus, if you're looking to eat healthier, this is a good way to do it as well. We're almost there. Very last thing. Wait, don't leave. I know you're screaming at the screen, but the whole issue is I have no money. And yeah, I mean, in some cases, yeah, that's true. But I would say that out of 100 people, perhaps only 5 to 10 are actually in a position where they couldn't afford to set aside any money at all and invest it. See, the key with investing is time, and I'm assuming if you're at university, you're somewhat younger. You're at the start of your career. So make the most of this time. Start investing as soon as you can. It does not have to be much at all. People always say, oh, I don't have enough money to do that. How about £5 a week? That's £20 a month. Do you think you could save that? You're like, oh, that sounds quite a lot. But then if you think about it, that's maybe one last takeaway or one last night out. Actually, you could probably invest more if you went on one last night out. Or swapping to shop at Lidl or Aldi instead of Tesco. These differences can easily save you £20 a month. And if you just divert that money to an investment account rather than sitting there or spending on something else, then you can afford this quite easily. So that's what I'd start with. £5 a month, automatically invested into an investing account on something like Vanguard or Trading212 or Freetrade. Sure, a short time it might hurt a little bit, but I really don't think you'll notice it too much. And building this as a habit is really important for as you get older. If you set this up as a standing order at university and then forgot about it for 30 years, which I wouldn't imagine you would do, but in our example, let's say you did. £5 a week, so £20 a month invested at 9% return. After 30 years, you would come back to £36,000. That's from £20 a week just from having one last takeaway or shopping somewhere different. And obviously I'm assuming in 30 years, if you keep investing, you'd afford to be able to invest a little bit more than £20 a month. So you'd be sitting on a lot more after 30 years, but you get the idea. So at least consider it. Do some research. Now, if you can maintain these habits over the course of your time at university, then you're going to be in a great position financially after you graduate. If you did enjoy this video and think it would be useful for someone else, then please do share this with them. Let's try and get as many people as possible's finances in order. So this has been a quick course taking you all the way from pre-university to during university and managing your money while you're there. If you want to watch any of these videos I mentioned during the course, then I'll put a couple of them on screen here. And also, good luck!